Hopefully we got the Hello, everyone. No, this is not on deck. We had a little technical difficulty. This is Real Talk Fins Talk, and I'm Steve Malloy, your host. And joining me tonight from overtime on the Fins Talk Sports Network is Greg Meyne, and soon to be joining us, we'll have Greg Lagassee as he's running a little behind, but he will be joining the show at some point. So Greg, I am so happy that you were able to come on tonight. Again, I've always getting you getting you on the show in short notice, and you always accept and you're always available if you're in town and you're not.
If I'm in town,
then you're not on business. So
yeah, exactly. So it's been a busy time. I've been traveling quite a bit lately. I just got back from California yesterday, so it's it is what it is. But I'm always happy to join you, Steve.
Well, appreciate it, man. I really do. And for everybody in the chat, I appreciate you for joining too. Just make sure you hit that like button. If you're new to the channel, go down there to that little bell down there and subscribe, and then share with your friends, your families, and your neighbors. And remember, we may not always agree everything Miami Dolphins. One thing we can agree on, we are all Dolphin fans. And I see Bret is here to join us. I'm going to add him. Bret, good evening, sir. Where have you been hiding?
Everywhere. It's been a crazy month and a half for me. It's been wild. Actually, almost 2 months for me. It's a long story for all fair.
Yeah, I got you. Well, look, I really appreciate you for joining the show. I know this was short notice. So, but I do appreciate it, man. And it's
all right.
You two guys for coming on. So let's get down to business.
Excited, but
yeah.
I don't get the feeling that I'm going to be the viewer's friend after this one, though.
Okay. I'm excited. I'm always excited, regardless. You know, with the NFL draft, especially the Miami Dolphins draft, and I'm always curious and waiting in anticipation to see how these guys pan out. And I know we're going to have the rookies will be reporting to camp, I think, next week. It's a week or two after the draft. They'll come in and they'll report to camp. A little mini camp type thing. I know some of the Dolphins are practicing right now. So
H-Chan still catching checkdowns from Tua.
Yeah. I saw that. H-Chan still.
Although that should be his role, catching passes.
Yeah, it will. We know that for sure. So let me ask you guys. I'm gonna go right off the bat here. I'm gonna ask you, and I'm gonna start with Greg first. Greg, what is your take? What is your opinion and evaluation of this draft class the Miami Dolphins picked up in 2025?
I should have brought a beer.
So I'm gonna qualify this by saying I'm not against the players. Okay. All right. The players can be very good. I'm hoping that they're going to be very good. I'm a Dolphin fan. I want them to succeed.
Yes.
Okay. The problem I have with the draft is the overall philosophy. The overall philosophy to me hasn't changed for the last several years. Okay. When we tanked and we started the rebuild,
right.
Our first pick in the draft in that rebuild was a defensive tackle. We're kind of rebuilding again. First draft, defensive tackle. The very next pick, all right, was a third-round pick, was offensive line, interior offensive line. It was Michael Dieter. He was a guard tackle, okay?
Right.
Next pick, offensive line, interior offensive line. All right? When you have the philosophy, all right, and my philosophy is, and I think it's been proven out time and time again, especially recently, that you build from the outside in, that the game of football is played from the outside in, all right? If you look at the guys who make the most money on offense and defense, it's the exterior players, not the inside defensive tackles, not the O-line. And when you draft, especially the first round, second round, I can understand if you want to go interior. All right. It wouldn't be my first choice, but I can understand it. But that first round pick, you need to go with your impact players who make the most money on their second contract. Because the first round pick, you get 5 years at cheap production. That is huge. Okay. It is very important for NFL teams to get high production on players on rookie contracts. And if you can get that 5th year, that's what you should do. All right. Defensive tackle in free agency is relatively cheap. All right. Offensive guard in free agency is relatively cheap. You can pick up pretty good players on the open market at $10 million. All right. A year. You're not getting a good wide receiver at $10 million. We tried that. Look at Odell Beckham. Okay. You're not getting a very good cornerback on the open market at $10 million. All right. We tried that. We've gotten rid of 2 of them over the last 2 years because we tried that. All right. When your draft philosophy is taking non-impact positions, especially in the first round, that are cheap in the second, on their second contract, it's just a wrong philosophy to me. And Grant might blow it up. He might be great. He might be the next Aaron Donald. I hope he is. Okay. But it still doesn't make it a smart pick, in my opinion. And I'm gonna die on this hill with that, because it just doesn't make any sense, especially if your team rebuilding and struggling at the impact positions to take a defensive tackle. I didn't feel last year that stopping the run, all right, cost us a ton of games. All right. It may have cost us 1 or 2 against the really, really good teams that end up going to the championship games. But those are really, really good teams. All right. We didn't get run on by a bad team or anything like that that cost us this. So again, I want them to succeed. I want the players to, I want to be proven wrong. I want to be shown that I'm wrong. But I just don't get the philosophy, and I don't understand. This is a bigger picture play, and we never focus on the big picture.
Interesting. Bret.
All right. Well, Greg said it all, but here's the thing. So Grant, I'm a fan of, and this is the weird part, but I agree with Greg. Going into your defensive line, what does that actually do for you? So Grant, to me, I kind of comped him with some of the little bit I've got to watch. He has some of the ability that Chris Jenkins has. I don't know if you guys remember him play for the Panthers and Jets.
Yes.
Very, very disruptive force, great size, good athleticism. Can take on double teams, which is great for the pass rush. If he has value there like Jordan Davis and Philly did, that's great. If that allows Zach Sealer to wreak havoc from the middle, great. But the question is, did they pass up an impactful player at that position? In this draft, they might have got away with it because this draft is kind of like 2019 in a sense, or 2013. It's not a like overly talented draft at skill positions. But I look at what the Houston Texans did and the New England Patriots did, and they got better at skill positions. And the Texans continue. To me, the gap is going to start separating from the Dolphins because of this offseason and draft. You're going to see teams like the Texans, their draft, they hit the home run with that. They've knocked out their drafts because Nick Caserio is a fantastic draft evaluator, and they're going to separate. They're going to enter the Chiefs and Bills territory. The Dolphins, at the end of the day, trading up for a guard in the second round, that's bad. To me, it's not good. It's not good at all. And I don't care what anybody says. Oh, he could be fantastic. He had a good RAS score. Fine. And a lot of times, if you go after guys that have a higher RAS, you have a better chance of hitting on those players. But when you read about him and watch him, you see he stops his feet. He's got slow feet. He does actually he has heavy hands, so he's not like Eichenberg. But again, that's not really good for the system. So he's going to have to keep moving his feet. Now he can move on his feet. It's just once he engages into a block, he stops driving or his feet stop moving. So can that be coached? Sure, but we'll see. But again, even if he's a Zach Martin at guard, does it make a difference? Is it going to change anything? I mean, like the problem with our offensive line wasn't guard. We're an outside zone team. We run outside the most. Everything is predicated on getting outside. And like our success with Mostert running the ball was schemed with Tyreek on that cheat motion. So like, does guard really affect it? Yeah, Liam Eichenberg is not a good football player. And the Savania is definitely becomes a really good like improvement in the sense of a run blocker from Eichenberg. But at the same time, people say we need to protect Tua. Tua didn't get hurt because of protection. Tua got hurt because he doesn't protect himself and because he doesn't stay healthy anyway. Going back to college, Tua's injuries were not from offensive line play, except the one that really stood out was his rib injury and one of his ankle injuries for offensive line play. That was it. The rest is just football, taking football hits. Every quarterback's going to get hit. It happens. It's the NFL. So, yeah, you do want to keep him upright more. However, he's got to protect himself, and he's done a poor job at that, and he's not stayed healthy, and maybe he's just not going to. That's not all doom and gloom because I do like the fact that they went and got Jordan Phillips, even though I made a joke about that. That was funny.
Yeah.
I had to make a joke because, of course, they got Jordan Phillips, the defensive tackle. Like, oh, come on. But Phillips, I think he offers a really good stout defensive tackle, and that's where you want to get a defensive tackle where they got hit, right? That was a good pickup. The kid from Maryland, not kid from Maryland. The safety from Maryland, who's actually not far from us. Good special teams player. I like that. I do like getting a special teams player there, and a guy like maybe could develop into a safety, starting safety. Who knows? But I know he likes to bring the wood, and he plays with a lot of passion. So that's something like we've really lacked on special teams, and we've lost a couple good special teams players. And so I don't mind bringing in some young guys for that later in the draft. Ollie Gordon, I think, is probably one of our best picks. I was hoping Jalen Wright would get more touches. Ollie Gordon is a hammer when he runs. He will run you over. He gets a little high sometimes, but he has the same kind of like build as who was I compared him to the other day? I wouldn't say quite like Steven Jackson or anything, but some people compared him to like LeGarrette Blount and his running style, and I could definitely see it. Maybe not quite as powerful, but he's he's pretty good as a receiver. He is a little tight hip, but I mean, he's powerful and he pushed the line and he's got the size. So if anything, he's got good speed for his size too.
Right.
I don't really care what the 40 time was because on tape he does break away and he's like maybe average at above average, slightly above average for running backs. But at the end of games, he's wearing you down. It's going to be good. And then Jalen Wright has good speed and good power, so that could be a good mix. And I would like to see those two be the 1-2 and Achane more of a mix in as your traditional third down back at more of a receiver and all. Gordon's also a good run blocker, so is Jalen Wright. So that's definitely a big plus. But my point, Greg points this out every year, and he hits it nail on the head every year. How much of a chance are they going to give them as a rookie? Because it seems like they only give certain rookies a chance, and the rest of them get put on a tight leash. And I don't really like it. I don't know where that stems from, but it's the development. It's I don't know. At least these guys this year, majority of the rookies they drafted have a spot to play. However, that's because we have so many holes. So it's not like last year when we're drafting players that won't get a chance to play, but now we're drafting players that can play, but we need them to play because we have too many holes.
100%. I agree with you 100%. And I want to thank everybody that's in the chat right now. I see a lot of new folks in the chat. Make sure if you're new to this channel that you hit that little bell down there and subscribe, and then share with your friends, your families, and your neighbors, and hit that like button as well. So I appreciate you all for joining me tonight. I see Linda in there, Zach, Emrak, Stavros, who else is in there real quick? Let me go over who else I saw in there. We got Orionzine. I always get his name messed up. And then who else?
That's my brother, by the way. So we can
Is
pick
it?
on him.
Is it?
Yes.
Okay. How do you pronounce it? How do you pronounce this?
It's Orion's. I'm not seeing the chat for some reason. I don't know what's going on with my feed here.
There you
Orion
go. You don't know how to pronounce it either, so I don't feel bad.
I can't remember his total. It's Orion something though.
Orion Z sign. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Bret. Orion Z sign. I'm sorry, Orion Z sign. I'm terrible with names. I've said this before. I can't even pronounce my name half the time. So anyway.
So real quick, if I may add too,
Kenna, how you doing, brother? Go ahead.
I did like added Zeke Biggers at the end of the draft, another big guy.
Yeah.
Add depth, competition, D tackle, that's fine. Quinn Ewers, I thought was a really great spot to get him because Greg and I did a mock draft with Evan, and it was on the fly, seat of our pants, and I think it was like both of our drafts was I think the 5th round. Like our second pick in the 5th round, Ewers is still there, and we both agreed at the same time. Like I took Ewers in mine, and he took Ewers in his at the same time because that's too talented of a quarterback to let him go, and then they get him in the 7th. And Ewers is, to me, if he had more playing time and stayed healthy, like he's talented enough that he could have been a day 2 quarterback all day, but he didn't play that like that. So I think there's definitely potential in him. So I like getting him in the 7th round. But of course, I think you should draft the quarterback every year. And then the corner from Florida, I just kind of scratched my head on that one. Like you passed up corner, but I mean you gave up so many picks. You only had a 1st and 2nd round, and then you were good until the 5th.
You had Marshall, the corner from he's from Florida, I think.
Florida,
right?
And the ball skills are a big question. He's got good length, 6'4", 194, good athleticism, but the ball skills are really lacking. So
Yeah, I saw some film on him. He didn't look. He may be a good special teams player, but he didn't look good. The film that I saw on him, in my opinion, I'm no expert, but and I want to get to Ewers, and I want to talk about Ewers here at some point. Not at this second, but I wanted to bring up a couple points you made. One point was Jordan Phillips. You mentioned Jordan Phillips. I think Jordan Phillips is going to be very good. He's a very powerful, like you said, stout guy, strong, and I think he's going to move the pile, right? So rotating in Jordan Phillips, and then you've got Kenneth Grant. I think that's going to be a good combination on the defense, and that's going to open up the lanes, the gaps for Bradley Chubb, Jalen Phillips, Chop Robinson, and all those guys as well. So I don't know and then I know, Greg, you said, and both of you said, impact players. Who would you rather seen them pick in the 1st round? Greg, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I thought the way the draft went at 13, I thought the Dolphins were going to draft the Barron, the corner out of Texas.
Yeah, me too.
I shouldn't assume, all right, but with all the news coming out about Ramsey, with them definitely needing another cornerback, in my opinion, and because Barron was basically slotted to be an early, the 10 to 15 range in most people's draft boards, for best available, I thought it made perfect sense for him for the Dolphins to go there. All right. You need ball skills in your defensive backfield. All right. And with Ramsey's going to be gone, which it sounds like he will after June 1st. If he's going to be gone, you have 4 to 5 questions in the defensive secondary right now, in my opinion. When Greer comes back and says, all right, we think our starting safeties are already on the roster, I'm like, nobody else does. Okay. All right. And then you have cornerbacks who I have major questions on, and I put it in one of the chats, discussing the draft. I was like, You know, Miami might be really good against the run on defense this year because teams don't have to run the ball. They can just throw all day long because I'm not sure our defensive backs can cover anybody. All right.
And what's going to happen with Ramsey? Who knows?
Yeah, and if Ramsey's gone, that's puts you even in a bigger hole. I don't know. I thought it should have been Barron. I was not a fan of trading up for a guard in the second round. I think they could have got a similar player at 48. The kid out of Georgia that went early in the third round. All right. And then you keep 98. And one of the players I was targeting in the third round with that pick basically got picked two places before the Xavier Watts, the safety out of Notre Dame, that I thought could have been a good player too. So I, with the defensive backfield issues that I see this team having right now, and the fact that you're probably going to have to pay some money to get some other veterans in here, I thought Barron made a ton of sense at 13, and that's where I would have went.
Yeah, that's who I wanted to, because Barron could play inside or outside. You know, he was he was versatile type cornerback. So I would have liked that pick as well. I don't know. I can't say I was surprised that they went with defensive tackle, because, to be honest, what I said about this draft was, I said they could pick anywhere in the draft, and as long as they're an impactful player, they're going to have to fill a hole somewhere, right? I mean, like you were saying, Bret, they had holes everywhere. So no matter where they went, if they got whether it was safety, cornerback, defensive back, or whatever, I guess what we're all saying here is that the defensive tackle is nice, and he's probably going to be an impactful player. But how much of a difference is he going to make in between winning and losing a game or two,
and
right? Or going to the playoffs?
Correct. And how many snaps is he going to play? This was another question I asked. Okay, defensive tackles naturally rotate.
Yeah.
All right. You know, Sealer's going to be on the field the majority of the time. All right. So when, how often is Grant going to play? And my first round pick better be going 70% plus snaps. All right.
See, I think they're going to have him playing a lot. I think they're going to have two D tackles quite often. But I don't think he's going to be. I think there's a reason they went deep at D tackle. Because, I don't think that they're. So, just looking at it at the team and how they're set up, I don't think they're going to. I think Grant's not going to play the role he's going to play is not going to be anywhere near the same as Sealer, and I think he's going to come off the field more. And he's going to rotate a lot. I think he's going to get a lot of snaps, but I don't think as much, like you're saying, as much as Sealer. I do think that Grant can be an impactful player, and I do think that he's going to cause some problems. I do. Yeah. Do think he can. He's going to improve the defense, but again, it's at what level. So it's you guys. We keep bringing up. We have so many holes to fill. So many holes to fill. That's why all these fans are like, oh, Grady got us a D tackle, got us a guard. Cool, but it's not hard to do to look impressive. It's like anything else. If I destroy something and then I build it up, even if it's crappy build, hey, it's better than when it was destroyed, right? So it's better. So that's all Greer does. He takes something that's barely almost good enough, destroys it, and then builds it better than it was destroyed. It's like, oh, okay, well, at least we're not like a one-win team again, So it's like it's just enough to keep above water, and that's all he's doing. And to me, like Greg said, trading out of the third round was just stupid. Like not having a third round pick was dumb. We let no third, no fourth. We let a lot of talent go. Well, and again, that's why teams and I saw the teams that like the Texans, the talent that they took in the third or fourth round. It's like we could have used some of those guys, and they're going to separate, and we're going to keep going the other direction.
They made some pretty good plays, but I will give Greer credit for this. All right, him trading out of the 4th round this year to get a 3rd next year was a good move. I will give him credit for that.
Yeah,
I don't hate everything that he did in this draft. I question his philosophy, but that was one of the moves, and I kind of like his 5th round picks. Okay,
I'll say this: that third next year is going to be crucial when you have to trade up for your quarterback.
Correct. And if they have to trade up for their quarterback, just like I love what Cleveland did. Okay, Cleveland ended up taking 2 rookie quarterbacks in this draft, have them fight it out. They traded out, got an extra first for next year. So if they don't like either one of the rookies this year, they have a ton of ammunition to get the quarterback that they want next year. I mean, it just makes a ton of sense.
Well, a lot of folks were criticizing Cleveland. They say, "Oh, look how dysfunctional they are. They got 5 quarterbacks. They don't know what they're doing."
And quarterbacks are a premium. You could trade one of them, even if you just draft them. You could trade
Joe
Flacco. You could trade Deshaun Watson. Like there is value in having. It's a good problem to have.
It's a good problem to have, and you get to watch them practice.
Yeah,
okay?
And the Browns can say, you know what? I'll trade Joe Flacco. I'm just going to give one of these rookies a chance. I don't care. See how it goes.
Yeah, you get to watch them practice. All right, even if Flacco plays all year and these guys aren't technically ready, you can see what they can do in practice. All right, and then you can make an informed decision for next year. And they're cheap. Okay, they're cheap. And you did something. And you did something to basically almost guarantee you getting a top quarterback next year if you need it, or if you like the players that you have there, you could start drafting. You could start building around them because now you have multiple 1st-round picks.
Right.
To me, that was a win-win for them. So anyway, we're not here to talk about them.
Yeah.
No, but I just thought it was. It was kind of interesting that they would even say, "Oh, they're dysfunctional. They got 5 quarterbacks." But I'm kind of in line with what you're saying there, Greg. You know, why? They're a premium. You can trade them. You can get, if they don't work out, somebody's always looking for a quarterback, at least they should.
Absolutely. And even if you go into the year, in the start of the year, the way quarterbacks go down, somebody might give you, a 4th or a 5th, next year, just because they need somebody, or a playoff team loses their quarterback for a couple games and they want Joe Flacco, to ride the tide. All right, and you're not going anywhere to do it.
Yeah, right. Good point. So let me ask you all this: in what do you think these picks that the Dolphins made in 2025? Do you think that Chris Greer's vision is looking towards the future or the present?
Future. You don't trade out of the 3rd or you don't trade up out of the 4th round and 3rd round next year and move all the way up for a guard if you don't feel safe. That pick, you're going after like an impact player, the top playmaker there. You're not trading up for a guard. You're not trading for picks for next year. You're not skipping the 3rd or 4th round this year for next year. So Greer is every move in the offseason. I said this on Twitter. People did not want to agree with it. It's because they're blind. They want to believe that this is the year. They're blind. Every move this offseason has said ball control. We're going to fix the defensive line. We're going to fix the offensive line. Even though Greer said we're going to fix that in 2019. So,
well, he tried.
Yeah. It wasn't for lack of trying.
No, he drafted a lot of interior people in premium positions for 3 years running.
Well, that's like I can tell my wife right now I can go out and fix the roof, but I might try. I'm not good at it. I have no idea what the hell I'm doing. But yeah, hey, I'm going to try.
Well, I mean, you look at the you look at those drafts during the rebuild. I mean, he took O-line and the 1st or 2nd day picks. He took 4 O-line players in 3 drafts in the 1st or 2nd day.
Well, then he gave up 2 picks for Liam Eichenberg.
Yeah, he
gave up 3 picks for Savania this year.
Yeah. Wow, let's hope he's better than Eichenberg.
Well, I'll tell you this now. Greer has hit on one offensive lineman. That's Robert Hunt. Austin Jackson's at least serviceable.
Yeah.
But honestly, but he's building for the future because he's looking at it this way. He didn't get competition for Tua. He didn't try to get rid of Tua. He's going to let this year play out because next year's a better quarterback draft, possibly, or 2027. So he just kind of looked, and then he said, "Oh, maybe I did delegate too much." That's Greer. It's just patting himself with more excuses. So
yeah,
he
never holds himself accountable, man.
He did nothing but safe picks, and they could do the San Francisco thing or the typical Shanahan thing. We could play ball control, beat you running. We could have a decent season, get into the playoffs, maybe win a game, maybe not, and then. It'd be enough to say, oh, look, they're still a decent team. They're right there. They're so close. Get a quarterback. And they're going to this and that. But that's all they're attempting to do. But if you hope Greer's gone, you have to hope that this is a complete meltdown, like a terrible season. You have to hope this is 2011 all over again or 2007 because the only way Greer's leaving is an awful season. Like I keep putting it at 6 or less wins. Anything else – and Ross is going to say, well, it's a down year. We're transitioning. And even though last year was supposed to be that. So I don't see this going. And they're getting rid of Ramsey at some point. They're going to get.
Yeah.
So they didn't trade Ramsey this year during the draft. They did that on purpose. They're waiting to get a better pick for next year's draft because they're looking at the future. Greer wouldn't be doing any of this if it was for another GM, unless Ross told him, you're not touching future assets. You're going to deal with what you got now and the bed you made. Ross says he wants to win now, but his actions speak louder than words. We'll see, but I think Greer and them are safe, and they'll be back next year.
Yeah, I agree. I think the only way Greer is gone is if they, like you said, they win 6 or less. And to be honest, I think Mike McDaniel would be the guy that's going to be gone before Chris Greer anyway.
Yeah,
that's my opinion.
They might not, though, because I think Ross already realized that when they hired McDaniel, that they lost out on one option as it was. So they interviewed guys that no one else was interviewing. And that was the only options they really had. So they're kind of stuck. And I don't think Ross wants to deal with trying to go for another coach again with Greer as a GM. So I think if Ross makes any decision, everybody's getting fired.
Yeah,
I don't think he's just going to do the half measure anymore.
Yeah, that's a good point.
That would be surprising.
Yeah, that's a good point.
They haven't done that yet, so I wouldn't count on them doing that this time around either. But anyway, one can hope.
So basically, what Greer did is what y'all are saying is he's settling for mediocrity again.
Yeah.
Well, he's either settling for mediocrity or. And I don't want to give them this much credit for being this smart, okay? Because in my opinion, they haven't proven that they are smart. All right.
Right.
But it's either that or they're changing the entire philosophy of what this team's going to be. All right. If Steve, you were talking about a pre-show, okay? The NFL teams are physical. All right. Miami is physical. They don't have physical skill position players on offense. All right. I call them a bunch of Smurfs. Okay. They got a bunch of small guys. It's hard to be a physical football team when you can't be physical at the skill position players. All right. The guards that they got this year, the one they drafted, the one they signed. Okay. That leads me to believe that they want to probably do a little bit more power because I don't believe either one of those guards is a true outside zone type player. Okay, so in my mind, the old line and the deep and the running backs and the skill positions don't really mesh right now. But you got to start it somewhere, okay? And if Ollie Jordan or Wright or somebody becomes that main running back and we start running inside zone and some of the inside power stuff now, okay, maybe, all right? We know we're going to transition away from Hill at some point. If we decide to go with a bigger wide receiver, okay, maybe, all right? So maybe they're thinking that we need to transition into a more power run and a less quarterback emphasis type system, maybe. All right. I still think they have a need at center if they want to go that route. One of the main reasons why they're
Yeah.
not good at short yardage is because the center gets blown up every time he has somebody over the top of him,
He's
and it's hard to
6'1",
run it.
280.
Well,
He's
I
not,
know
he's
it's hard.
small.
It's hard to run inside when your center isn't somebody who can move somebody off the ball. All right, but he's a good outside zone center because he can get up to the second level. All right, really well. So it's a bunch of misshaped pieces. They don't mesh. Nothing meshes on this team right now.
But you know who would have meshed? The center from Georgia, who's a good center. He sticks at good run blocker, and he could have got him in the third round instead of trading up for Savania.
That's what I was gonna say. Yeah.
All right. So
and when I saw him get drafted in the third round, it's like again Liam Eichenberg all over again. Creed Humphrey right there. Let's trade up over him and get him.
Well, here's the thing too. Guys. I'm pretty sure you're aware of this. Zavania. What is it? Zavania? How do you pronounce it?
I think it's Savania or something.
Savania. Okay. Savania. Anyway, the guard that we actually he didn't play guard. He didn't play guard last year. No, he had
tackle and guard.
Well, from what I read, he had 7 starts at left tackle and he had 5 starts at right tackle.
He played guard before that. He's a guard all day. He wasn't great at tackle in college.
Yeah, I think he was playing tackle out of necessity last year, but he projected as a guard from everything that I read.
That's why
he's built like a guard. Yeah. He's built like a guard.
Pass blocking and run blocking was the worst out of all drafted offensive linemen. They said it was from the body of work, but I think it was just from last year playing tackle. He had the worst pass blocking and run blocking grade of every drafted offensive lineman. However,
that makes
sense. Lot of people said his grade for run blocking and pass blocking at guard was night and day compared to tackle. Yeah. So it's a tough comp. You'd have to grade him at guard separately to see where he would rank with the rest of them. So because I shared that, then I realized, you know what, that's probably just his time at tackle, and he's not a tackle. He's not athletic enough to be a tackle, even though his RAS was really good. It's just he's better at guard than he is tackle.
Okay.
Again, Could be Zach Martin. Could be the next best guard you've ever seen. Could be Quentin Nelson. It doesn't matter. What's Quentin? How many playoff wins have the Cowboys and Colts won with Quentin Nelson or Zach Martin? And how long? The other point I bring up all the time is how long did Dallas's great offensive line last with Travis Frederick, Zach Martin, and Tyron Smith? That was a fantastic offensive line. How long did it last? They couldn't keep everybody.
Yeah.
And they couldn't. The Eagles, the reason their offensive line's good, they get guys at day 2, day 3. They develop them. They pick up guys that teams quit on. They develop them. Green Bay does the same thing. Again, Savania could be a great guard for 15 years for us. Fantastic. And we could just be looking at this like, oh, we overreacted. But again, it's just a philosophy of what they're doing. And like Greg's saying, like the point up he's bringing out, like it's the same thing I said earlier, that they're shifting to this ball control.
Yeah.
Westbrook, that they brought in a receiver. Proof of that. Bring in Pharaoh Brown, the tight end. Another proof of that. Run block, a much better run blocker tight end than Durham Smythe. Much more physical presence, right? And Johnny Smith is a good blocker in space. And if you move, since he's always out wide, he can be a blocker out wide, right? So he can be a good run blocker out wide. So you see the shift. Big, beefy, every defensive tackle is over 300 pounds. They're changing how they do things on defensive line. So, and the linebackers, this is the best linebacker core we've seen since Dansby and Burnett. You know what I mean? This is probably the best linebacker core we've seen in a long time. Good run defenders, all around good linebackers. Brooks was one of my favorite moves that Greer's made. And again, but like Greg is saying, it's not meshing. Like, we defensively, we're probably going to be pretty good defensive team, except for the secondary. We'll see what happens. Offensively, we're all over the place. We don't have an identity at all. We don't have a physical. The run game, though, seems to be shifting to a physical run game with Ollie Gordon and Jalen Wright. I think that could be a good thing.
And Madison. Don't forget Madison.
How much does that actually help? Yeah, Madison. How much is that actually going to help us? You know what I mean? Like, it still comes down to the quarterback, and it still comes down like a wide receivers. Like, we'll see.
Yeah. And it still comes down to the running back. All right. I'm sorry. If Achane is our primary runner again, I just don't see how Miami's running game is going to be drastically improved. Here's a stat that I ran across. All right. That I was doing. I don't look so much at players for the draft. I look at kind of like bigger picture overall. What did Miami need? All right.
Mm-hmm.
So there's this stat on it's next gen stats. It's rush yards over expected. Okay. I'll give you both. One guess who the top two rush yards over expected were in 2024.
It's
Derrick
Barkley
Henry.
College.
Yeah,
Derrick
Derrick Henry
Henry.
and Saquon Barkley, right?
And Saquon
yeah.
Barkley, yeah.
Okay, they were far and away the best two
Right.
in rush yards over expected. Okay,
Right.
so
Right.
basically they had over 550 yards more than what they were expected to get. All right.
Wow.
So with the offensive line takes you to a certain place, and then every yard after that is how they measure this. Okay.
Right.
They were 1-2 in the
Right.
league. All right. Achane was 44th.
Wow.
Okay.
He's not even a starter.
All
But
right?
then everybody, but folks are going to say that's attributed because of the O-line. We didn't have a good O-line.
But
Well,
the thing
now
is
go
that this
look
is
at the Eagles' season before in 2023 compared
Right.
to 2024.
right.
It
And
is
Swift.
It's not
It's
close.
I was going to say Swift the year before for the Eagles with what I would consider a better line was a negative runner as well, yards over rush. All right. So here's the thing. Here's why I like this
And
stat.
the Eagles' line didn't change.
The
Same
Eagles
line.
might have got worse this in 2024, but Achane was negative yardage. That means if the offensive lineman was going to block and he was expected to get -2 yards, he lost more than that. Okay.
Wow.
I mean, if he would have got 0 yards on that run, that would be a +2. Okay. So it's kind of irrelevant of what the offensive lineman's doing. This is specific to a running back. All right.
Right. Right.
He was 44th in the league. Wait a minute, I got to see it. Wait, I have it on here. He was -81 for the year. It was a 650-yard difference between him and Saquon Barkley in yards over expected. And the thing is, the year before, Achane was a positive. But he was a positive because of one game in Denver.
Yeah.
That one game
yeah.
was like 90% of his yards over expected. All right. So
right.
we need better production from running back. And I know that's going to upset some people because they love Achane and things like that. As a pure running back, not as a pass catcher, where he's very valuable in my opinion, but as a pure runner, Miami needs to be better.
That's what I said when we drafted him. I said Achane needs to be our third option at receiver. He needs to be used as a receiving back. He needs to be used how New England used James White and Kevin Falk, because those two were valuable for New England in their runs. James White was fantastic for him, and Kevin Falk was always crucial on third downs and everything. You guys remember how crucial he was on big that's what Achane needs to be. Achane doesn't need to be an every down back, and he gets dinged up and hurt. I like Achane, and I like him in the roles, and I like the playmaking ability he has. I just don't like the expanded role. It's not what I would have envisioned for Achane. I don't think that's what McDaniel had envisioned, but I think that was like his most comfortable option, it seems like. But I feel Ollie Gordon and Jalen Wright could be a really good duo. I think Jalen Wright needed more time because every time they gave Jalen Wright the ball or every time he had a chance, it was obvious running situations. And it was, after the offense, he had a couple good games. When Austin Jackson got hurt, all of a sudden it started getting worse. Weird. An outside zone team, your offensive tackle gets hurt, you're right hand heavy running, and all of a sudden you're struggling running the ball, but it's the guard's fault. It makes no sense. And it shows a lack of understanding of how the offensive line works in this run system. And our offensive line issues is staying healthy. That's the biggest issue with them.
Yeah,
Sure,
for
they can
sure.
get better, and I do think getting 70 it does make them better. But I want to point out something. Back to my point about this offseason, Dolphin Roller said an inside run game makes this better, helps the quarterback immensely. It does, because you're taking the ball out of Tua's hands. You're taking the ball out of his hands. He's becoming not a game manager. He's becoming an afterthought, where it's like the Ravens of the day, where we're going to run the ball. The Titans with Ryan Tannehill. He's just going to have to do just enough to keep him afloat, and the run game is going to take over the rest, and the defense is going to play ball control. However, that's not going to get it done against the Bills. That's not going to get it done against the Chiefs. That's not going to get it done against the Texans coming up. So it's only going to get worse. And if New England's young quarterback like improves in May, I mean, the gap is going to be there, and we're going to keep struggling, because at the end of the day, all they're doing, to me, it feels like they know, hey, Tua isn't the guy anymore. We have to do everything else around him. We have to play ball control, and we have to let Tua just kind of get the ball to his players, to some of the weapons, and use the run game to protect them, because if not, we're not going anywhere. And that's what it really feels like.
And the bigger point for this draft was, for me, all right, Miami to me is a fringe playoff team. Okay. Did they use the draft to get closer to the better teams in the AFC? Did they stay the same, and did those teams get better, or did we continue to lose ground, and maybe some of the teams that are behind us are now moving ahead of us? All right. I look at teams like Denver, Houston, the Chargers. Okay.
Denver's definitely getting better.
All right. Those three teams, in my opinion, even further separated themselves from the Dolphins because of this draft. All right. And I still think that the Baltimores, the Cincinnatis, the Kansas Cities, and the Buffalo Bills, they're still way better than the Dolphins are as well. So what is the, if we're staying the same or not moving forward as fast as these other teams, we're farther and farther behind. And that's kind of what I feel like in this draft this time, is that we, while it might be a good draft, we might have improved a few things here and there. I don't know if we've closed the gap significantly enough to say that Miami can now challenge for what I call championship level play. A team that can go to the AFC Championship and potentially a Super Bowl. I don't see Miami with this team this year. I don't see. They're definitely outside of my top 6 in the AFC.
Yeah, I just don't see. I feel like at the end of the day, this might be too little, too late. You're getting Christian Wilkins replacement after you couldn't come to terms with him, right? You're getting a guard after you failed how many times to find a replacement for Robert Hunt. This team waits until the last minute, like, oh, what are we going to do? I actually applauded Greer and McDaniel for not signing Hunt and Wilkins, because that would have been stupid to pay either one of them as much as they got paid, because you could replace that production. Hunt's a good guard, but how well did the Panthers do with him at guard? What difference did it make? It's a good player.
That's a good point.
Yeah. How much money am I going to pay a guard to be a good player? But I'm sorry, I'm not paying guards that much money. And I applauded Greer for that. I was smart, because guards should be easily replaceable. You should be able to find a good guard all over the draft, free agency. Like Greg said, you can get good players without paying quarterback prices or wide receiver pricing.
Hey, I see Finn's Take is in the house, CB83. Make sure you go check his podcast out. He has a really good channel, CB83. Thank you for joining. The Dolphins Realtor's in here. I got to have him on the show. He's a great guy, very knowledgeable. He and I have gone back and forth on Twitter. Very respectful gentleman, and I appreciate that. So, Appreciate everybody that's in the chat right now. Just make sure you do
absolutely.
me a favor and hit that like button. And if you're new to the channel, because I'm seeing a lot of new names in here, make sure you hit that bell, hit the subscribe button, and share with your friends, your families, and your neighbors. Thank you.
One point on Dolphins Rotor and CB83 with the coaching. I do think coaching needs to be better and culture needs to be better.
Yeah,
but
for sure,
I
100%.
do think coaching has been used as a scapegoat a little too much. Greg and I Greg was the one that really kind of made me realize that coaching can only do so much. And I remember back in the day in high school and stuff, they can't do it for you. Basic training, like your drill instructor's telling you, like, hey, I can only do so much. I can only tell you so much. You have to do the rest. You got to do the work. And it's the same thing like the NFL. Like coaches can only do so much. They can only scheme so much. And then they start getting more film out, and defensive coordinators, offense coordinators, they start scheming against each other, and you can only hide so much for so long. And I think if you really want to blame McDaniel, it's game management, really, how he manages the timeouts, how he manages the flow of the game, the challenges. And but other than that, I think it still comes down to talent. I think we've had a talented team, but I think we've lacked in too many places to really contend. And the other thing that I think you can blame McDaniel for is the discipline of this team or lack thereof, because they have been sloppy all the way around. And you look at championship teams, if you have a player failing, Andy Reid sits you down. If he's constantly messing up, Andy Reid's either going to bench you or he's going to coach you. And he'll coach you. And if you still aren't getting it, sit down. I'll get someone else that will. And everybody's coached up. Next person goes. So injuries aren't an excuse. It's you got to develop your guys. And I do think there are issues on this coaching staff that I don't really think they're really great coaches or are really attributing. But at the same time, like I think McDaniel has his flaws. I just don't believe McDaniel took a job that was really conductive to him having future success with how this team was set up anyway. And with Greer picking the players, I don't think you'll ever have a Super Bowl contending roster.
Yeah. Well, and I agree. He's a young coach. He never was an offensive coordinator. He was a run game coordinator. So he was thrown into the fire, and
he was a wide receivers coach before that for a long time.
And he was a wide receivers coach before that. Yeah. So he was thrown in the fire. I mean, he definitely wasn't set up for success, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I've and Bret can back me up on this, and I've been saying this for a lot longer than I've known Bret, right? Is that there is no magic scheme, there is no magic coaching technique to get more out of your players. If there were, everybody would be doing it. Okay, yeah. There's not something I can teach a bad player on an O-line to make him significantly better. I can't take a terrible player and turn him into average or good. Okay, there's nothing I can teach them to do that. All right, it's the same thing with Miami's coaches over the years. All right, scheme, coaches, adjusting, all of that other stuff has always been blamed for Miami's failures. When if you just take a step back and you look at it, the problem has always been the players. All right. I've said this many times on many different shows. Name the last player Miami drafted that's heading to the Hall of Fame. All right. You can't find one this century. Not a drafted player.
Well, okay. Richmond Webb, right? Wasn't he?
Yeah, but that was in the 90s he was drafted.
Oh, that's 90s, yeah.
Yeah.
Zach Thomas.
Zach Thomas, Jason Taylor.
Jason.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
They were drafted in
Miami
the
players.
90s.
Yeah, that's
90s, right.
25+ years ago. Okay.
The only close one you have is one we didn't draft at Cam Wake. Close.
Cam Wake, he wasn't a draft pick.
Yeah. Rashad Jones was one of the best players we drafted. Xavier Howard. Neither one Hall of Fame. Fantastic Dolphin players, fantastic careers.
See, there's also a call now I heard. Tell me what you think about this, and then I wanted to shift gears and go to the Quinn Ewers pick. There's been calls I've heard people saying, "Hey, would we like to have Xavier Howard back?"
I don't think
Greg?
you can bring him back.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to come back.
Look, as a player,
Yeah,
I
I don't
like
either.
him, but all of the other stuff that goes with him, I don't think you can bring him back now. I mean, and
Plus, he's been out
and
for how long now? I mean, I don't
A
even know.
year.
yeah, he hasn't
It's been a
played in
year.
20 months.
I
All right,
don't
Yeah.
think I think
Over a
he's
year.
done. And then if you look at the corners peaked out at 29 on average.
Yeah.
Now Xavier Howard's not an average corner, obviously, but at the same time, at 31 years old, sitting out a year, I'm not sure he's going to come back
Well,
and have a great season. Maybe he could. I wouldn't put it past him, but I don't think Miami's in that situation. And if he was going to come back, it's going to be probably for a team like the Chiefs or the Bills or somebody that's going to contend. You know what I mean?
you have,
Yeah.
and plus, at his age, you have to match him up with the scheme that you want to run. I don't know if he necessarily fits what Weaver wants to do. All right, and,
Weaver wants to run a lot of zone.
he
Yeah, he
wants to
runs a lot of
run a
zone.
lot of zone. I don't know if that's if Xavier Howard ever did that really well. In his career,
Not
he
really.
was more of a man cover corner. That's just not what Weaver likes to do. So I don't know if he's a fit anymore in Miami for the defense.
And that's another thing too. We like Greg just hit a point that like it's not what Weaver wants to do, and that's the other thing. You don't try to fit your scheme around your players.
Mm-hmm.
You have your scheme and you identify your players. I know that doesn't sound right, but Philly has done this for years since Andy Reid in '99. Even though after Andy Reid left, it's still the same people running it, except for that little short Chip Kelly time when Howie Roseman took a backseat, let Chip Kelly shoot himself in the foot. He does the same thing. They do the same thing in KC. They know what they want to do. Sure, they adjust, they adapt, and they mix it up. It adapts. It's not like this is all we're going to do. It does adapt. But the Ravens do this. The Steelers do this. You ever watch the draft? They're like, that is a Steeler guy. That is a Ravens guy. He has Ravens. Malachi Starks going to Baltimore. Who is surprised that a ball hawking safety went to Baltimore? No one's surprised about that. You know what I
No.
mean? Like
In the first round.
surprised. Right.
Yeah.
No one's surprised about that. Like that's what I'm saying. Like, and even though like I'm not a big defensive tackle in the first round guy, the D tackle that the Steelers took, that's a Steelers guy. Again, so they have an identity, right? Oh, the Eagles getting another pass rusher at a good spot who shouldn't have been there. So that's what the Eagles do. So that's the other thing too. Like, so adding Xavier Howard wouldn't work, and it would be smart not to add him because, like Greg is saying, you can't play man with him because you're a zone team. So you need to find a zone corner. Now that's why I want Azariah Thomas from Florida State, who the Jets drafted. So, yay, the Jets have two good corners with a fantastic defensive-minded head coach who understands corner. That would have been a good pick for us in the third round, but we didn't have a third-round pick because we thought guard was more important. But we could have had a excellent talent at corner to play zone. However, I will say the kid we drafted has potential to play zone, but I don't know if he's ever going to start.
Which one, Trader or Marshall?
Marshall. Trader could be, but he's a little small at safety, a little short. But I mean, he plays with some passion. I'm rooting for it just because he's from like not even an hour south of me in Delaware. So, Delaware, we don't have a whole lot of talent coming out. We have like Chris Godwin's in the NFL right now, but we've had a
There you
handful.
go.
But like, you got to root for the kids. So it's kind of cool seeing him in Miami. But
Joe Flacco's a blue hen, isn't he?
I mean, he played at UD, but he's not from Delaware.
Oh,
well, we still accept him and Rich Gannon.
There you go. There you go. So, guys, here's what I want to do. I wanted to shift gears a little bit, all you guys made some really good points on the present 2025 draft class. So I appreciate that. I like Quinn Ewers. I want to talk about him a little bit. How about you all? How about you, Greg?
So a couple of years ago, they were talking about him being a first-round pick and maybe even a first overall pick. Okay, he has talent. All right, and for a bunch of different reasons and things like that, he's dropped in the draft. But it's in the 7th round. Hell yeah, take a chance with him. All right. Maybe he can become like Brock Purdy, or let's not forget he was Mr. Irrelevant, right? And physically, I think he's even he's got skills. He's got physical talent. It's the same thing with Zach Wilson. All right, they have physical talent. You know, and if Mike McDaniel has coaching ability to bring out the best in them, let's see what happens. I think there's no downside to Quinn Ewers being picked in the 7th round. None.
Not at all.
None. In a especially if you're what I'll just say fluid at the quarterback position. You don't know when Tua is going to get hurt. You don't know if he's going to be able to play every single game. You better find yourself a stable of guys who can play a little bit. But I think Zach Wilson's another one of those guys who can play a little bit. So there's no downside whatsoever. In the 7th round, go for it every single time. I'm a fan of that pick.
I am too. And biggest thing I was talking to Buddy, he's got to stay healthy. That was the one thing he pointed out to me, and I agreed. But we both agree that he's a fantastic talent. Like he's got I'm not saying he's like the next coming of Peyton Manning or Tom Brady or anything like that.
Right.
But he has a good arm. He's got decent athleticism. He's not going to kill you running the ball, but he can move around in the pocket really well. He extends plays. But the one thing Quinn Ewers that I really like that you can't teach, he's extremely confident. He's extremely confident in his arm. He's not arrogant, but he's confident in his abilities. His biggest issue is every time he gets momentum, he gets hurt. And then he has a lot of ups and downs in his game. But he reminds me a little bit of Matt Moore with a better arm.
Yeah, I remember Matt Moore. Yeah.
He's a gamer. He's tough. You love rooting for him. And if he comes in, he could probably win us a couple games. But he's the kind of kid that, you want to root for. But he's going to make some plays that you're like, why? But, you love his confidence that he's like, I'm going to try to do it. But he has a little bit of Matt Stafford in his game. That's who I've always kind of compared him to. But I don't know if he'll ever reach that level.
He Matt Stafford's probably a future Hall of Famer. All right.
Absolutely.
So if he and he was a number 1 overall pick. So if he gets to that level, absolutely great. All right. But
right. Oh yeah.
But the other thing about Ewers is, and look, I'm going to say this, and I don't like the guy. I don't like Steve Sarkisian. No. Or Sarkisian or whatever, however you want to pronounce his last name. All right. I think he is a piece of, POS, piece of crap. All right.
What happened? I'm not familiar with that.
I just don't think he's a very good human being. All right. As a college football coach, but he does coach the quarterback position well. All right. And he can coach that position. It's another reason why you take the chance, okay, with Ewers in the 7th round. He's got physical talent, and you know that he has been coached well. Okay. All right, and I think that's when you're drafting late and you have questions about everybody that you're drafting on the 3rd day. All right, go for the players that have physical talent and that are coached well. You take a DB from or a wide receiver that plays at Ohio State. Why? Because they're coached well. Yeah. All right. It's the same thing with Alabama under Nick Saban. If you needed a DB and you're drafting on the 3rd day, take one out of Alabama because he's going to be coached well by Nick Saban. It's those types of things that you need to take a look at. Before Liam Eichenberg, I would have said if you need an offensive lineman, take one from Notre Dame.
And all right, somehow we found the worst one.
Because they're coached well. All right, but all right, we got maybe the worst one. All right, so I'll shut up about that one. But that's yeah. But that's what 3rd day picks for me are. All right, if you need the position, go to the schools where they're coached well.
Makes sense. Well, here's my take. I just got through watching 25 minutes of film of Quinn Ewers. It was presented by, now I can't remember the guy's name. The quarterback that played for the LA Rams, Kurt Warner. Yeah, it was presented. Yeah, it was presented by Kurt Warner. A whole 25 minute film and breakdown. Excellent. I love the kid. I think it's the steal of the draft. He is going to give Zach Wilson a run for his money. The kid has got an arm like you can't believe. He used to be a baseball player. He played baseball in high school and all that, and worked his way up. I think he played in college, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe not. I may be wrong on that.
He did graduate a year early too.
Yeah, he graduated a year early, but he can throw the ball from all angles, from even off platform. He throws the ball because of his arm talent. And the thing I like about him is when he's got a beautiful pass, beautiful touch on the ball. He can make all the plays outside, inside, long ball. He can do it all. And he very rarely overthrows a football because he's got that good of touch. He lays it right in there. Very rare do you see him overthrow the ball. And the system that he played with there, he even talked about this himself. I heard an interview with him. They play a lot of the same, the kind of the same quarterback system as the Miami Dolphins do. He's got a quick release, very quick release. The only bad thing to his quick release is sometimes he's not very patient. He's not patient enough in processing the field, and he goes to his check down when the guy, could be doing like a post route or something, and he's wide open, and he just doesn't see it. He's just impatient, doesn't let the play develop enough in time, and he's already got his foot planted to throw the ball, so he can't make those adjustments even if he wanted to. So that is one thing. And you said the injuries, Britt. Yes, he's been injured, but he's a tough player, man. He played through a lot of injuries. He plays through a lot of those injuries. And that's what I like, his toughness, his confidence. He's accurate with the ball, and he can make any throw on the field.
He can hit every spot on the field.
Every spot on the field.
And he can make those hole throws that you need to make in the NFL that our current quarterback doesn't make.
Exactly.
I was going to say it when he said he very rarely
say it, Brent. Say it.
He very rarely overthrows. I'm like, well, neither does our quarterback. But
for different reasons.
It's not because of arm strength.
Yeah.
But so like I think it's funny that a lot of people are like panicking about the trolling that they say that Ewers going to supplant Tua as a starter, but
no, he's not going to do that.
He's not going to do that. But Ewers, he has all the talent. Baseball background does help with the arm. It helps with the arm angles. It helps with like your arm not getting tired and having to make like on the spot throws, but his biggest problem is he's impatient, but that's also the Sarkisian offense and what they did at Alabama is to get the ball out quick, grip it and rip it. A lot of passes where it's slants and all that. And Texas had the speed at receiver.
Yep.
But a lot of that too was because of how they wanted to run it with Ewers with the processing. So I think he is impatient. He wants to ball out early, and that's my biggest issue with Tua. He wants to ball out early, doesn't want to sit in the pocket and hold it. It's just a matter of breaking him of that habit, and I don't know if that's something that's easy to break him of.
Yeah, that's a good point. Go ahead, Greg.
I was going to say it's the modern offense. All right, it's 1-2 check down. All right, you're not if you get to what they call the backside, that means you screwed up your front side. All right, it's 5. Okay, if you take a step back, if you consider 4 primary routes plus a check down, okay, all right, or 3 because you have an extra blocker in plus the check down, it's up to the quarterback to determine which one of the 3 is the first read. All right. Your first read is not dictated to you by the concept anymore. It's dictated to you by the concept and the coverage.
Right. The defense.
Okay. Right. Listen to what Tom Brady says during a telecast. All right. The play is called. I get up to the line of scrimmage. I see the coverage, and then it's up to me to determine who's going to be open. That's your first read. Okay, that's the way modern offenses work. You're not basically scheming what my first read is anymore. All right.
Right.
You're not
Right.
saying it's on the right hand side and I go 1, 2, 3, 4. That's not
Right.
the way it works. You
Going
can
through
have 1, 2
progressions.
or 1, 2 and things like that. And most modern
Mhm.
offenses, all the way from high school all the way up to the NFL now, it's basically 1, 2, pick a side, and then you go to your check down.
And a lot of it's reading off of what the safety's doing.
And a lot of it's reading off of what the safeties are doing and things like that. But you have to determine which one of the four, and it could be a 5-person route, which one of the 5 is your number one. And it's based on the route concepting scheme and the coverage. But it's not. I'm going to start coining a phrase. Okay, I'm going to say it's the reality-based offenses versus the paper-based offenses. When you draw something on paper, it's really easy to figure it out. Okay, you can't run an offense in today's NFL based on paper.
No.
All right, and one of my criticisms of Kurt Warner, and I like him a lot. All right, he tends to think on paper.
Yeah.
All right. You come up to the line of scrimmage. This is your scheme. This is what the coverage is. This is where you go. That's not the way that's not reality. That's not the way the system works. That's
it's really
not the way
for teaching fans how it, like the concept of how it works. All right, this is how it works. It's just like I'm a mechanic, and it's like Greg being an engineer, like so you like draw the diagram, but that's not necessarily how it's going to actually be and look when you work on it. It's just that's the basics of it. This is how it works, why it works, and what you're trying to do, and then now you got to deal with the reality and everything else.
Well, and I will make mention of this. He did, just to be fair, he did say that. He did say, I know it can be this, it can be that, but I'm not sure if that's what they're doing here or doing. I didn't know if that's what they were doing
problem.
here.
Analyze it because Kurt Warner said a lot, and JT O'Sullivan does it too. I don't know how they're teaching it in meetings, but this is how
you don't know how they're teaching it in reading. All right,
exactly.
And I say this all the time when you see people break down film and stuff like that. They're like, "Look at this guy; he's wide open." Well, he might have been wide open, but the quarterback's not taught to look there based on what he's seeing, the scheme and the defense and things like that. All right. That might not be his first read. It could be, and he missed it and he screwed it up, but we don't know what's being taught. We're making our best educated guess.
Right.
All right. As to what's being taught. But it is still based on, there's a difference between reality and paper. And what I think Tom Brady learned to do throughout the first year of his telecasting was talking about reality. All right. When the play call comes in, you come to the line of scrimmage, you see what the defense is going to do, and then figure out which route's going to be open. That's my first read. That's quarterback play 101 in today's NFL.
So is there any audibles implemented in this type system that you're referring to, this modern day system? Are there audibles incorporated in that system?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. There, you have the ability. Look, defenses get it right too. All right. You have a play call. You call a play based on formation personnel, and you have an expected defense that they're going to play in a specific defensive personnel group. Okay. And you run all the analytics and it says, and you expect this 80% of the time. Okay. Well, as a quarterback, you should know also, if they are in this, I can't run this play. Okay. And it might be only 2% of the time or something like that, but you call the play based on the percentages. And if the percentages are against you, you have to audible. All right. The problem with the McDaniel offense, okay, and why Tua doesn't audible is because after you run all of your shifts and motions, you're basically taking up your full play clock and you have no choice but to run the play. That's why I've advocated, and Bret and I have talked about this on overtime and things like that, is get rid of some of that shifts and motions line up, and if Tua is really as good at reading a defense as what people claim he is, let him line up, give him 10 seconds on the play clock, and give him the ability to change the play instead of running it all the way down and running a play into a defense that you know is not going to work. And you don't know what the defense is going to do until you're done shifting and motioning. All right.
Post snap, right?
And I don't know if are they too stubborn to change it, or is it? And I don't think McDaniel's not dumb. So it's like, is
McDaniel's
he too
not dumb
to change it, or is it like we really can't change it? Like we're stuck doing
this. And that's the thing. Why is the Shanahan system supposedly so quarterback friendly? It's because all of the shifts and motions identify what the defense is doing.
Yeah.
Okay. It makes it easy for the quarterback to process, because once you start moving people around, the defense usually identifies what's going on. All right. If you don't do the shifts and the motions, can the quarterback understand what's going on? All right. That's the issue. So is McDaniel running all the shifts and motions more than any other team in the league because Tua needs it? Or is Tua capable of not needing it anymore?
That's the $1 million question.
That's the $1 million question. Because you cannot audible after you shift in motion if there's 5 seconds on the clock. There's just no time. All right. And plus, and I'll say it this way too. All right. When you do all of the shifts and motions in one play, that play call is this long. All right. You know, it takes a while to say the words in the huddle. That eats up more time. All right.
And can you imagine Mike McDaniel making a play call from the sidelines as much as can you imagine that?
Well, and even if he says, you know, if on the wristband it's a number, all right, call play 33, all right.
Yeah, there you go. Maybe that's what
he still has to say all the words.
He still has to say it. Yeah,
it takes a while. All right,
makes sense.
You know,
yeah.
One of the things that I was impressed with the Chip Kelly offense, and even Tom Brady and Bill Belichick implemented it. It's basically a one-word play. All right, they could go up to the words, into the huddle and say 23, and everybody knows what it's going to be. All right, you line up here, and okay, now Tom Brady has 25 seconds to figure it out.
That's what they did in high school when I played. Hey, 23, 43, whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. It's a way to simplify things, yet it's also a way of being more complicated because you give the quarterback more abilities to get the team into the play that's going to most likely succeed.
Or give the quarterback a chance to call the play at the line, or make that change at the line to say, oh no, kill it, we're not going to do that.
Kill.
Or
all right,
adjust, or maybe he could figure out where his hot reads are. That would be one thing too.
I mean,
he's not very good at that because he has no idea when he gets pressured. He doesn't always know where that hot is, and that was the thing that Brady would kill you on. If he got pressured, Brady was getting the ball to the hot, so you better get to him right away. You better make it so he can't really throw the ball, because if he can throw the ball, he's going to hit you at his hot, because he knows if you're blitzing, he's throwing it at the blitz. He knows his hot's there.
So and I'll say this about the quarterback position as well. All right, and Sean McVay, LA Rams coach, I think is really, really good, and he's really, really smart. Okay, when he had Goff, he had to run the shifts and motions because Goff needed it. He trades for Matt Stafford. Matt Stafford comes in and says, basically, all of that stuff sort of went away. They still ran shifts and motions, but nowhere near as much, because Matt Stafford is good enough to say, okay, I know what the defense is doing. And Matt Stafford is good enough to go to Sean McVay and say, okay, if we line up in this and the defense gives me this, I want to go to 5 verticals or something like that. I want to make that audible. And Sean McVay is like, go for it. Golf couldn't do that. All right. Matt Stafford can. And that's
the arm.
Well, he's got the arm and he's got the understanding of what's going on and what he wants to get into. All right. And he's able to make that quarterback head coach relationship. You could do that on a Saturday before the game, as long as the entire offense knows what the audible is. And if they have a single word audible to go 5 vertical, go for it. And then the other thing I'll say, all right, if you watch the Super Bowl, watch what Jalen Hurts was doing with not Sanders, the other wide receiver, AJ
Brown.
AJ Brown.
I was going to say Wright, but I knew that wasn't right. So AJ Brown, right? They were doing hand signals without even audibling, basically communicating what routes they wanted to run. And basically, they were doing it on their own. They weren't even changing the play. It was the quarterback and the wide receiver recognizing what was going on, and basically Jalen Hurts giving him a hand signal to say, "I'm going to throw you a stop. I'm going to throw you a fade stop, okay, or a back shoulder throw, whatever you want to call it. All right, run that." The rest of the offense had no idea what was going on. You know, do we do that? I don't think so.
No,
I don't think we have the ability to do stuff like that.
And you would think that with Tua and Waddle's history together in college, that they would be able to do something like that, and yet they don't. It's because they don't have time to do it. And again, I'm not in the meetings. I don't know why they're doing it, but it does feel like it's the same thing as the golf situation in LA. Like, it just feels like he's doing it to hide it, making it easy, streamlined it for Tua. But at the same time, I do think the Shanahan system is like that. But McVay adjusted, and if they can't figure if McDaniel can't figure it out, or if Tua can't figure it out, like if it's one or the other. But I think it really comes down to Tua. I really think it comes down to, like, he has to do it, and that's where, like, Quinn Ewers, if he can figure it out and put it together, I mean, it could be good. But at the same time, I think this is going to be the year that I think that McDaniel and Greer have an honest conversation about Tua, or they're going to have to, because I don't want to hear, oh, he can't stay healthy. It's his only issue is staying healthy. No, it's not. His issue is on the field when he's healthy. I mean, he was healthy against Buffalo and looked absolutely horrible that Thursday night. That was awful. And then, like, people still gave him credit. Oh, he wasn't healthy. He got hurt, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But every time, it's always because he got hurt. No, he doesn't step up in big moments and doesn't carry the offense. And this year, people use the Rams, like Greg's point, what you're saying, but the Rams audibled a lot this year. Yet, because they had to, because of the injuries that they had on their offense, but they kind of went back to the basics and just kind of audibled. Matt Stafford was banged up, couldn't really carry him this last year, and he was fighting through some injuries and fighting through it. And they had, like, the not the audibles, but the motions was kind of helping the offense click a little bit and getting the rhythm, and he just kept that rhythm. And you saw how they bounced back. So at the end of the day, Matt Stafford doesn't need the audibles like Tua does, or the motions. Tua does. Jared Goff needed them.
We're going to see if Tua does. Let's see if now that McDaniel eases up on that a little bit,
right?
And let's see what happens.
I want to bring up a point here. How good? How much help was the offensive line and run game for Jared Goff in the playoffs? How much did that run game and offensive line help Brock Purdy in the Super Bowl against the Chiefs? How much did any of that help against teams with better quarterback play? It did. You know what I mean? Like the Ravens.
Yeah.
What was the difference between the Ravens and the Bills and the Chiefs? Well, the quarterback play. I'm not saying Lamar Jackson played terrible. It's just Josh Allen, and every time they lose to Josh Allen or Mahomes, they used to have a better game. And why does Josh Allen lose to Mahomes? Because Mahomes plays more efficient and makes plays when they need it the most. And Josh Allen makes plays, but he's come up short in some big moments against them. But Josh Allen and Mahomes are the reason that those teams are there. They're the reason their offensive line's good. They're the reason that their run game works. That's just how it is.
Well, and I'll say it this way too. Look at the last 2 Super Bowls. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I would argue that Christian McCaffrey with San Francisco was the best running back in the league that year.
Yes.
And Saquon Barkley last year was the best running back in the league.
Mhm.
And in the Super Bowl, the Chiefs shut them both down running the football. Okay.
And who was it left up to?
And who was it left up to win the game? The quarterback and the wide receivers.
And
Jalen
Greg and I were
Hurts.
talking during the Super Bowl. Go ahead, Greg.
Now, I was going to say, when you are in the playoffs playing the very good teams, they're going to take away what you do best. So what is your alternative? What is your then go-to? All right. Against San Francisco, all right, KC in the Super Bowl, their wide receivers couldn't get open, and Brock Purdy couldn't, there were no, he couldn't make easy throws.
Mhm.
Right. Against Philadelphia, AJ Brown, Sanders, or the tight ends, things like that. They were finding ways of getting open, and Hurts
And
was
Jalen
hurting them.
Hurts.
And Jalen
yeah.
Hurts, if they weren't open, was capable of beating, taking off and extending drives as well.
11 carries, 75 yards.
He was quarterback play in the playoffs matters.
Yeah.
And you better get it right.
And let me tell you something. In that Super Bowl, Greg and I were talking, and Jalen Hurts was having himself a game. He won with his legs and his arm. And Jalen Hurts is why the Eagles offense won the Super Bowl, right? That's the defense played lights out. They picked six, great. But Jalen Hurts, with Greg and I were talking, because it was at that moment when they had that big touchdown pass to Devonta Smith. Just before that, when they got the ball back, Greg said Eagles need to go for the third here. I said, yeah, they need to go for a touchdown. They don't need to get cute and try to save the game. And they knew that. And what they do, they went for the third. And they said, Jalen Hurts, do what you do. And the calm as can be, stayed in the pocket, delivered a beautiful ball, Devonta Smith touchdown. And that moment, you kind of knew like the Eagles won the game, won the Super Bowl, right? Quarterback play. That play broke the back of the Chiefs, and that made it almost basically impossible to come back on. If they ran the ball, the Chiefs would have given that, held it to a field goal. Spags would have let them go ahead, chew the clock, kick a field goal, give us the ball back. Go ahead. We can battle back from a field goal, and Spags would have let them drain the clock and then kind of like work that against them. But they didn't, and it hit it with a bomb, and they took advantage of it for a touchdown. And that's the difference, like the quarterback play. And I'm tired of hearing, the offensive line this, offensive line that. That offensive line was not that good in the Super Bowl. Jalen Hurts got pressured, and he ran.
Yeah.
He made plays with his legs, and he made things work. And the Chiefs' defense just didn't have an answer. The Chiefs' defense was a fantastic defense. It's just they got outplayed. And it is hard to win 3 Super Bowls in a row. That's why it's never been done. However, it's just
for sure
the quarterback play. That game, Hurts was the better quarterback. And that playoff run, Hurts was fantastic. And Hurts stepped up in the playoffs, played great. Kind of like Eli Manning. You can say what you want about the regular season, but Eli Manning in his 2 Super Bowl runs, he was fantastic in the playoffs. He was. And it doesn't have to be 300-400 yards. It's clutch plays when they matter most. And that's what he did.
And you can argue, all right, that Detroit was the best team in the NFC the last 2 years.
Yep.
And they fell short both times because of the quarterback play. Even though I do blame, their idiot head coach for losing in San Francisco 2 years ago, but that's beside the point.
Yeah. Hey guys, I want to thank you for coming on tonight, but I want to make one point before I close off. You guys are exactly are on point about this quarterback play, and this is the thing. I don't want to hear any more excuses about Tua needs an O-line. I don't want to hear any more excuses that Tua needs a running game. I don't want to hear no more excuses about injuries. And he's got his O-line now, supposedly, right? At least we hope so, right? He's going to have it seems like he might have a running game. We might be a little more physical than we were previous years. So what it boils down to is quarterback play, because they're gonna I don't care how good, as you said, their O-line was or how good their running backs was. When you're playing against another team that matches just as, matchups are just as, on par with your O-line or better, it all boils down to the quarterback. And that's what I've been trying to That's what I've been trying to say on this channel for the last 2 or 3 years. It all boils down to quarterback play. It boils down to quarterback play. Hopefully, we got our franchise quarterback in Quinn Ewers.
I mean, yeah, of course, everybody
Here
would
we
root
go.
for a Tom Brady situation, right? Or Brock Purdy. But look, at the end, and I've said this multiple times, all in the history of NFL, like for 9 times out of 10, when your teams are even, it will come down to the quarterback.
Yes,
I would say the history, but the last like 20 plus years, right? It comes down to who had the better quarterback, all in all, or what quarterback stepped up in that playoffs run. Like, so to me, again, why were the Saints competitive for years? Drew Brees. Why were the Patriots? Why were the Bills with Jim Kelly, the Dolphins with Dan Marino? The list goes on, right? Why are these good teams good for so long? They just so happen to have a quarterback. The only exceptions, the Steelers had Ben Roethlisberger, but the Steelers are still a well-built organization for the most part. The Ravens are a well-run franchise, and they do well. The Eagles, they haven't had a long-term quarterback, but they always succeed because they have a well-built franchise, right? So you either need to have your quarterback, or you need to be a well-run organization, and we are neither. That's the way I look at it. And at the end of the day, I don't care what you said. Run game, this, we got that. This is what we need. Is all you're telling me is if we need all this stuff, then we don't have our quarterback. That's it. That we don't have our quarterback.
Exactly.
So at the end of the day, that's all that matters. So, you're basically saying we have Rex Grossman with the Bears in 06. Or we have Matt Schwab, who I keep comparing him to with the Texans. A fantastic team, but went nowhere because the quarterback couldn't overcome.
Look, you can have an average or good quarterback and make it to a championship game and a Super Bowl. Okay. If you want to consistently compete, if you want to consistently compete for that championship game and that Super Bowl, you need great play out of quarterback.
Yeah, 100%.
And that's, I mean, you can be the Jimmy Garoppolos. You can have those types of players get to the Super Bowl. You can Jared Goff, all right, got to a Super Bowl. Okay. Yeah. You can do that. You can have that one magical season. The Rex Grossmans. You can do that. But it's not sustainable. And unless you have that quarterback, it's not sustainable. It's not something that you can do every year. That's
people are going to bring up the 49ers, and I know I get it because they've had success and they went to 2 Super Bowls with Kyle Shanahan, and they've lost, and they, even though they weren't terrible in the Super Bowls, they've had good teams, good run game, all this stuff. But that's starting to change because look, the Eagles are surpassing them, and teams in the NFC are starting to come up and surpass them, the Vikings and all that, and the Lions.
Yeah.
So, it's not the same as it was. However, I still think Brock Purdy is a decent quarterback, but to the point that like Greg's saying, it ultimately comes, especially the AFC. We have how many good quarterbacks in the AFC?
Yeah.
Like, I know people don't think Lamar Jackson's good, but he keeps them in games. He's beat our tails multiple times.
He's the most valuable player a couple of times, wasn't
Joe Burrow, Pat Mahomes, Josh Allen. There is no, let's be like the 49ers in this conference. You can't.
And then coming up with Drake May, possibly. And I'll be honest with you, I like
Herbert.
Herbert, but I like what's his name, Justin Fields. I like him. I think he's going to give the Miami defense some fits because of his running ability, just on that alone.
So, and supposedly he's working with a quarterback coach this year, and his footwork has improved tremendously from the reports I've seen.
I seem to remember a certain quarterback going into year 6 of the Dolphins who just needed an offensive line because he had everything else. Oh, that's right. He went with the Titans too. Oh, don't worry, guys. Year 7 will finally be over.
We'll see. We'll see, guys. Hey, guys, thank you very much for joining the show tonight. I appreciate it, and I appreciate everyone in the chat that joined. Make sure you hit that like button. If you're new to the channel, again, go ahead and hit that subscribe bell down at the bottom. And I saw a gentleman that came in here that was on Twitter. Come over here to the YouTube channel. Join the community over here. That way you can hit that like button and that subscribe button, and that would really help the channel out a lot. Also, Greg or Britt, where can they find you, brother? Our brothers.
I guess I'm going to change mine. At Bret Lagassee 67. Don't worry, you'll see everybody yelling at me. You'll see the takes and everybody.
Yeah,
gotcha.
And you can follow me at G Meyne, first initial, last name, CT1361.
And then you all were on the overtime as well, right?
Oh, and on overtime, we're trying to put a show together for maybe tomorrow. So
yeah, we were going to try to go tonight, but since you were having us on and couldn't do it, it was perfect timing.
So I think we're going to try to get on tomorrow.
Yeah, Evan's going to tell us how we're wrong. It's going to be great.
He likes to do that a lot.
It's going to be fun.
Yeah. What time, guys?
I think we'll go at 8 o'clock tomorrow.
Yeah, 8.
8 Eastern time. 8 o'clock Eastern time.
Yes, 8 Eastern.
All right. Remember, guys, ladies and gentlemen, make sure you check them out tomorrow night, 8 p.m. right here on this network, Fins Talk Sports Network. Overtime. All right, guys. Thanks again. I appreciate it, and God bless.
Thanks. Fins up.
Fins up.